People, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another episode of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the likes, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below on today's episode. And it's been 3 weeks since the season finished now, pretty much. It's been a nice break from Chelsea, but things are heating up in the transfer market. Obviously, last couple of weeks of June, Chelsea need to get some outgoings done, and that's what's happening at the moment. Saudi Arabia massively helping us out. Incomings, hopefully, will speed up over the next couple of weeks as well. Maybe the Moises Caicedo news. Nicholas Jackson should be deal completed this week as well. So there's exciting times ahead for the club. But in today's episode, I'd like to be joined by Ben. Mate, thank you for coming. Pleasure as always. As I said, it's been 3 weeks now since Chelsea finished the disastrous campaign. You enjoying the break from it, mate?
It's good waking up knowing that you're not going to get absolutely thumped by any one of the other 19 teams in the Premier League. So we're all good there. But yeah, as much as I do miss the football as well, though, so it's a bit annoying just having nothing to do, literally nothing. So yeah, it's kind of mix and match really. But as much as I don't want to remember the season, there were plenty of vibes from it. So we'll take all the very small positives from last season and move forward with that.
No, absolutely, man. I think there's kind of reason to be optimistic as well. Obviously Pochettino, new manager in. Looks like the long overdue clear out is finally gathering pace, and a lot of players seem to be on their way out the door. I mean, what have you kind of made of the approach to the window so far? Obviously, it's only been open for 4 or 5 days officially, but obviously lots of work has been taking place prior to that. I mean, have you sort of looked at Chelsea's approach to it so far? Because we've got a lot of work to do in this window, so it's difficult to find a bit of a starting place for it.
Yeah, I mean, fair play. Just all you can say here is just fair play, because these guys are shifting deadwood fast. You know, they've released 13 people. Goodbye, Bakayoko. Didn't realise you were still at Chelsea. Fair enough. I mean, you're not employed by Chelsea anymore. Fair enough. We there is a massive risk of financial fair play coming into effect here. So, to very quickly shift all the people we bought as quickly as possible and only keep the ones we want. That is very smart. Very, very smart.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people. I've had a go at the owners, me, you, others. In terms of some of the decisions they've got wrong in a footballing sense of things, which is kind of to be expected. Obviously, as long as they learn, that's cool. But what I don't think what you can criticize is like their business acumen. At the end of the day, these guys are billionaires. You have to be. You don't. That doesn't just happen one day. You're pretty smart at business. Good things. We've already seen them, find that one loophole, the 8-year contract, spreading the cost over the length of the contracts. That's now been closed because other teams not happy about it. UEFA not happy about it, and it looks like maybe we could be stumbling across another, quote unquote loophole, but selling to Saudi Arabia, which. I mean, mate, I never thought that Chelsea and the Saudi Pro League would be the sort of the link up that we so desperately needed. But it looks like it absolutely is. Obviously, Hakim Ziyech has agreed personal terms of Al Nassr. He's going to go and play with Cristiano Ronaldo. But mate, imagine that. If you said that a few years ago, Cristiano Ronaldo and Hakim Ziyech would be teammates in Saudi Arabia. But that's the way that we're heading. Edouard Mendy this morning has agreed personal terms for a move to Al Ahly. Koulibaly is also on his way out to Al Hilal. And Aubameyang could also be joining up, going to Saudi Arabia as well. Mate, what have you made of kind of all these moves to Saudi? Because these are 4 players that we thought would be pretty tough to get rid of, but all of a sudden now we found takers for them, and we're going to get a decent chunk of money back as well.
Yeah, thank you, Saudis. Thank you, Saudis. That's all I'm going to say. You absolutely can splash as much cash as you want on our players. Oh, well, what's that? You want to give us 90 million for Lukaku? Oh, go on then. Oh, you actually want to give us 200 million for Lukaku? Oh, go on then. Yeah, just give us your money. You've got plenty of it. You've got too much money. Share it with the people. Although I say that as if we ain't got money ourselves, but yeah, no, Saudis, love you. Always rated you. Always rated your league. Definitely. I've definitely been an advocate for the Saudi Pro League. I mean, I don't know how long I can keep saying this without people realizing that I'm joking, being sarcastic. But yeah, no, like end of the day, money's money. So in what we're balancing the books, everyone's complaining about FFP. We are now doing our best to balance the books and spend big in the summer, which is fair income.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair play. Like, obviously, and also what I think it's important to realize as well is that these aren't just like random youngsters that are being plucked from Chelsea. These are like not only because of Saudi Arabia, it's a Muslim country. These are 3 of the most marketable Muslim players, and they're trying to build their league kind of on kind of majority Muslim players and stuff. And so Chelsea have got 3 of those. It's not as if they were like you could understand maybe a little bit more if they were coming and they were taking Conor Gallagher and they signed Chukwuemeka and they signed whoever else, or Mason Mount went out there, whatever reason. Then you could maybe look at it and think, well, hang on a second, what's going on here a bit? But the fact they're predominantly Muslim players, it's a Muslim country, you can kind of understand it. And I think other fans are just jealous that they haven't got takers for their shit players, like Arsenal thinking, there's no Saudi clubs coming in for Rob Holding, for example. And it's just jealousy. And you sort of, when Chelsea's back, when you open up the timeline on Twitter and you see Arsenal fans dedicating 20, 30 thread tweets about how we're cheating at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. Maybe we're finally coming back, mate. But I mean, just on a few of those players that are leaving, what are your thoughts on obviously Mendy's departure impending, should be completed this week? It's kind of mad because not many of us have heard of him or too much of him when he signed. He was then phenomenal for us in that Champions League, won the Club World Cup, obviously won the AFCON with Senegal. He was one of the best goalkeepers in the world at that point. And then suddenly, as big as his rise was, his fall was arguably even bigger. And he almost like he's forgotten his goalkeeping ability. And now he's obviously going off to Saudi. He deserves more money and whatnot. Happy for him in that sense and grateful for what he's done. But it's kind of weird what's happened, isn't it, with Mendy?
Yeah, it's strange. It really is strange. I don't know what's going on there. Like, it's like, Michu at Swansea. He came in, he had an absolute wonder season, and then he just disappeared off the face of the planet. Mendy just come in, won all these awards, won all these trophies, and then just vanished off the face of the earth. And now he's off to the Saudi League. But yes, it's weird. Obviously, one of the ones that is going to really hurt the most, obviously, is Kante. Without a doubt, losing Kante, that's always going to be hurt. Because that guy is. I wouldn't, obviously. Some people will throw around legends quite a lot. Definitely a cult hero. Definitely, definitely someone that's going to be talked about generations to come. The generation before us was saying, "Oh, the Claude Makelele's." Now we're going to say, "Oh, yeah, N'Golo Kante." It's just one of those. Phenomenal player. He's done so much for the club, and just thank you. This is the first chance I've actually got on the video just to say thank you, Kante, for everything that he's done for the club. What a guy! What a guy! Hopefully as like a little leaving present, we can get him like a little Mini Cooper monster truck to drive in the desert.
Yeah, mate, I'm sure he'd like that. I guess the only positive, I suppose, if it is a positive, is that we were kind of prepared for this. We sort of knew it was coming, and because he'd been injured so much of the last 2 years, he'd been gradually phased out anyway. And we kind of had gotten used to playing without him. Doesn't mean we're not going to miss him. Doesn't mean we couldn't do with him. But I suppose ultimately we couldn't compete with those wages on offer, that money on offer. And I guess the sad reality is it probably was best for all parties involved that we maybe move on from that 2018 axis of Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic, and we start bringing in new players. But I mean, in terms of other outgoings, because it seems like the whole midfield seems to be wandering out the club at this point. And obviously, Kante's gone on a free. Loftus-Cheek looks like he's going. Kovacic to Man City should be wrapped up fairly soon. You've got Mason Mount's future in doubt as well. Conor Gallagher potentially could go to West Ham or Newcastle. Do you think we're getting rid of too many midfielders, or do you think that's right that these guys do need to go? Because midfield massively needs an overhaul, but I've got a slight worry, a tiny bit, that we seem to be getting rid of all the midfielders, bar Enzo and the youngsters in Chukwuemeka, Casadei, and Santos. And obviously Caicedo hopefully comes in. But I mean, do you think we're getting rid of too many in the middle of the park?
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a worry. I'd say realistically, it's more of a deadwood clear out that we're doing. So it's unfair to call some of the players deadwood, but they're moving onwards and upwards. It's been made clear they're not part of the project that is going to be the Chelsea rebuilds. This is something that we're probably taking. Well, that is definitely being taken very serious. Bowley come out. He admitted he got it wrong this season. And that he's had to go back and think. And now we've hired a competent manager, someone who actually has intelligence within football, Pochettino. And it's just more of, if you're not part of the plan, you still want to play football, just go. So the people that we're losing versus the people that we're looking to potentially get in, it's not as bad. Although there's a lot of people, that everyone's fallen in love with. Kovacic, great memories. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I've always backed him. I've always backed my boy Ruben. My dog's named after him, for Christ's sake.
Lewis and Ballack.
Yeah, Lewis and Ballack, mate. The streets will never forget. That man, he fought as hard as possible to get in that team. And now I'll never forget just how hard Ruben fought to try and get first team football at Chelsea.
And it was so good under Sarri as well. Like that season, the Europa League, the hat trick he got in Europa League, he was like, he looked like a really top player. Mate, do you ever think what could have been if he didn't pick up that Achilles injury in that ridiculous friendly in the States before Arsenal and Mbappe?
League final. Yeah. To this day, I'll never know why we've played a friendly game before a European final. All right, fair enough, mate. We battered them 4-1 in their biggest day out. So I can't really judge too much, but it still doesn't make sense. Why on earth would you go to America, play a friendly, go back to Baku, Armenia, sorry, and then not Armenia, Azerbaijan, sorry. And then it doesn't make sense, because then obviously Ruben got injured. That he was one of our most informed players of the season, and then something just happened. I don't know what, but then it just doesn't make sense. And obviously, hopefully, Chelsea have learned that there are no more friendlies to be played before any sort of season ends. Stop, just grow up. No, don't do that again. But in regards to everyone that's going, fair play. There is one person who I think we are going to cover.
I forgot about him.
Just go. You are fucking. So excuse my French, but you are terrible. You do not deserve to wear the number 29 for Chelsea. You don't deserve to wear any number for Chelsea. You don't. Spoiler alert, obviously, but get this man gone. Fair. You know what? If he wants to go and trust the process at Arsenal, not win a single Champions League, maybe win 1 or 2 FA Cups just to keep Arteta in. Fair play, Havertz. Oh, I want to play for Arsenal. I'm green lighting Arsenal. I'm very happy with Arsenal. Okay, good. We're happy for you to go to Arsenal. All right, there are people that love Havertz. If you're still loving Havertz at this point, what is wrong with you? Get that man gone. Get him gone.
I'm surprised that there's look, going into the summer, obviously we ended the season it's clear that a vast majority, if not pretty much the whole fan base, almost united in the fact that Havertz needs to move on. It's been 3 years now. Yeah. It's not been good enough. We're not talking about a small sample size here. We're talking about 3 full seasons, multiple different managers, multiple different systems, playing in different positions, and none of it's worked. 9 goals and 47 appearances last season, playing a majority of your minutes at number 9. I know we're in a struggling side, but you've got to do so much better than that, and it doesn't look like he will. So that, as far as I'm concerned, that experiment needs to be. We need to move on from it. But I really wasn't expecting there to be much of a market for Kai Havertz this summer. Obviously, you always get the links with Bayern Munich and stuff. There was that interest from Real Madrid, but then they didn't really want to pay more than 50 million quid, which is kind of fair enough.
He's shit. I wouldn't pay 10 million for him right now.
Sorry, mate. Are you surprised that Arsenal are interested in him? Because I don't really see where he fits in there. But
they want to play him shadow striker underneath Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean, I'm not complaining. 60 mil for Havertz. That is a brilliant bit of business. And, who knows? It's like what we say, Chelsea players go from Chelsea to Arsenal to retire, maybe pick up a few extra FA Cups, but the players leave Arsenal for Chelsea to win the trophies, the big trophies, the Premier Leagues, the Champions Leagues, those types of caliber trophies. Whereas, other people go from Chelsea to Arsenal to retire. So, you know what? Actually, yeah, it makes perfect sense now. Happy retirement, Havertz. You realise you're not a footballer. You're a fraud to football. You're an absolute insult. Wrong German sold, absolutely. Beginning of this season. Wish still my boy Timo was here. But, yeah, Arsenal taking up Havertz could actually be, already the most banterous moment of the season. Already, the funniest moment of the season. This guy's dropped stinker after stinker after stinker, and clearly, big ego Arteta's come in and said, "Oh, he is a promising player. I reckon I can get the best out of him." All right, you do that. You absolutely do that.
Just wonder what
in a Chelsea shirt next season. I don't care where he goes. He needs to go. He is one of the worst signings, arguably. Operation German James Charles has failed miserably with us, so just get him gone.
But I was, surprised that we could even, like I said, 60 odd million quid, maybe a little bit more with add-ons included. That after we bought him for 72 million pounds, whatever it was, 3 years ago, and he's had 3 terrible seasons. Yet we're almost recuperating nearly all of our money that we paid on him in the first place, which I think is quite remarkable. I think 50 million pounds would have been fair for him, given what a 20 million drop in value after 3 poor seasons. I actually think that's that unreasonable. I would have quite happily taken that 50 mil and gone. And I think one thing I do like about the new owners as well is that when you've got 2 years left on your contract, and if you don't want to sign a new contract, you're being sold. That's a great way to be going about things, because before we were in a situation where players are running down contracts. We've seen it with Christensen and Rudiger both going on frees. We've seen it obviously Kante and Jorginho. Kante's going to go on a free. Jorginho obviously didn't go on a free, but easily could have done. We managed to get a decent deal with Arsenal for him in January. So we've got to avoid those situations where we run contracts down for free. But mate, just on obviously we're talking about German players then. Who do you reckon's been? I know obviously Tino was a fan favourite and stuff, and he tried hard and all that sort of thing. But do you think out of the two of them, who do you think was a worse signing, Havertz or Werner?
Havertz easily. Yeah. Havertz easily. So, I mean, people might attempt to cook me here. Oh, Ben, Kai Havertz won us the Champions League. He rounded Edison and put the ball away. What's this agenda against Kai Havertz? My agenda is he's shit. That is it. I'm not having it. He is just terrible. Terrible player. Never worked. Never is going to work. And yeah, I'm going to stand by my guns here and say that I'd rather have kept Timo and sold Havertz, because at least Timo tried. Havertz just wanders offside, gets a feather, on his back and falls on the floor. I mean, the fact that I just saw, I was browsing through Twitter yesterday, and I'm glad I did, because I saw this compilation of all the misses that Kai Havertz has had. And I mean headers from 1 yard out, tap-ins from 2 yards out, misplaced passes constantly, always running offside. It just shows just how terrible he is as a football player. You would think someone who trains on the football pitch day in, day out would be aware of an offside rule, but no, Kai Havertz just doesn't see an offside rule. He just sees potentially invasion of the pitch and moves forward from there. Oh no, you're offside. Oh, here we go. Every time the ball went to him this season, I got so disheartened because I just knew nothing was coming of it, no matter what. And all right, he might have fluked a few goals this season, but some of them were from the penalty spot. It's hard to scuff up from the 12-yard spot, realistically. And yeah, just get the man gone.
Mate, we'll get him gone. He can come back to Stamford Bridge next season, in an Arsenal shirt, and we'll
I shouldn't have said that. Oh no, that's going to get taken out of context. Oh no.
Moving away from Kai Havertz, let's talk about. I want to quickly talk about Koulibaly before we move on to
Yep.
incomings and players that. I think it's fair to say that a lot of Chelsea fans were excited by his arrival. He was a player that was linked with a move to the Premier League pretty much every summer for the last 5 or 6 summers before he did eventually come. Napoli are hard to deal with. De Laurentiis, the chairman, is difficult to get deals out of him. Probably the Italian Daniel Levy. And imagine, I personally thought, like a lot of the fan base, £33 million for a 31-year-old Koulibaly. That's a good deal. I was excited by it. I thought it was going to be really good for us. It's only one season, of course. I feel a little bit, uneasy, I suppose, with judging players after one season because it does take time to adapt. Unless you're the top in the world, you can kind of come in like an Enzo Fernandez, for example, and hit the ground running pretty much instantly. It does take players time, but I'll be honest, I'm surprised that Koulibaly has struggled. He's had good moments and he's had some not so good moments this season, but ultimately with 6 centre-backs on the books at the moment, Silva, Fofana, Badia, Schill, Chalobah, Koulibaly, and obviously Levi Colwell coming back into the mix as well. Pochettino likely to play a back four. It's not space for them. So one of them has to go, Chalobah and Koulibaly. Both could go potentially. I'd like to keep Chalobah, but Koulibaly is obviously going to go off to Saudi. But are you surprised that this move for Koulibaly just hasn't worked out?
Yeah, it's yes and no. I mean, I've always been saying that it's he came to the Prem 5 years too late, which realistically is the truth. But I'd imagine that he would have kept some of his promise, but I don't know, maybe just like the physicality of English football got to him. I don't know. I don't know what on earth happened with Koulibaly. It looked promising. He got the number 26. We all saw the video of him ringing John Terry for the number, asking if it's okay. And then, he came on against, the game against Tottenham with that absolute wonder goal. We thought we were in dreamland. We thought we'd nicked a massive bargain. And then, obviously, things took a turn for the worse and the man just disappeared, which was sad to see because I've actually always liked Koulibaly. You just see compilations of best high IQ defending. He's definitely on that video. Running after someone with his pace and performing like a pitch perfect slide tackle. And I was so excited when we found him. I'll say, "Oh, this is a good replacement for Rudiger. Get him in the squad. I'll take him. Perfect." And then obviously it didn't work. Sadly.
Yeah. But I remember saying the same thing. Like in terms of, I was thinking it's not just a replacement on Rudiger. I was thinking it was an upgrade. Koulibaly's had a great career, but it hasn't worked out. And I suppose from a Chelsea perspective, for us to, the rumoured fee is about 20 to 25 million euros, so around maybe 22 million pounds roughly, which considering maybe lose 10 million pounds and for what we paid for him a year ago after not such a good season I think that's pretty good business all round. Look, he's never disrespected the club. He's never kind of moaned about his playing time. Can't complain about him as a pro. It just hasn't worked out. And I guess we just wish him all the best. Yeah. But in terms of centre-backs, this obviously looks better for Levi Colwell as well. That's one less guy in the way of him getting minutes. Do you see him featuring prominently next season? Because obviously, Chelsea really rate him. They don't want to let him go to Brighton because they clearly think he's a big talent and could be a kind of a mainstay at the club in years to come. Obviously, you're only playing once a week. It's going to be a back four. You don't really want to be rotating your centre-back partnership very much throughout the season. You want to build continuity in the back line. Do you see Levi Colwell starting for us next season? Do you think he's better than Badia Shile on that left side of the fence?
I'd imagine we will probably see a fair bit of Colwell next season. Only because obviously Pochettino's coming in, and from what I've seen, obviously a lot. It's not just like one person. Like a lot of people have, obviously said that as part of the interview process of getting the job, Pochettino outlined the plans for Mudryk and Colwell. So I would imagine, obviously, if that's got a fair bit of truth to it, then Poch is going to definitely want to play Colwell on the pitch. So I think, I will definitely see him. Maybe almost definitely in the round 2 Carabao Cup game that we're playing for the first time in years. Absolutely,
I've forgotten we had to play in that.
Yeah, I mean, Millwall away early. Let's go. Let's get Millwall out the way. We can get Millwall. Let's go. Let's go. No, but I reckon we'll see Cole a fair bit. If we're blocking, if we're rejecting offers for him, from Brighton and not even including him in the Caicedo deal, obviously, and we've got plans for him. So I reckon we do see him start to break into the squad next season.
Yeah, I think you absolutely get opportunities. I don't think there's any way that Chelsea would be saying he's not for sale, he's part of the future plans, and then not play him in a decent chunk of the season. And we moan about our attack and the midfield has been shocking, absolutely. But one positive is the defense. Despite all the games we lost last season, we still had, I think, the 3rd or 4th best defense in the Premier League. And with Thiago Silva's experience and him dropping world-class performances most weeks, and then you got 3 of the best young centre halves in European football in Fofana, Badiashile, and Levi Colwell. Chuck Trevor Chalobah into the mix. He's not too shabby himself. That's a great group of centre backs to be working with. So I think in terms of at the back, I don't think we've got too many issues in that situation. We just got to make sure that we develop these centre backs right and they go on to reach the potential that they should. But I think we're stocked at centre back for, if he wanted to be, the next 8 to 10 years. I'm not saying all these players are going to stay that long, but in terms of their age, absolutely. And, their ceiling is pretty high. So this could be 3 of the best centre-backs in the world in the next 4 or 5 years. So that definitely really does bode well for the club. But let's move on to incomings, mate. Let's start with one player that, I'm hesitant to say he's 100% a Chelsea player because of what happened with the Ugarte, but it looks like this one's a lot further down the line. Nicholas Jackson will probably complete his move this week from Villarreal to Chelsea. 21-year-old Senegalese forward, can also play down the left. I don't think many of us were expecting this guy to be Chelsea's first signing. Failed a medical at Bournemouth in January. Hamstring issue that was meant to keep him out till February, but actually was going to keep him out till March. So Bournemouth kind of pulled the plug on that one. Not necessarily the big name that a lot of Chelsea fans were looking for in the striking department. I'm not saying it's going to be the only, or rather there could be more. But £30 million. What are your thoughts on this move?
I'd rather be honest than deluded. I've not seen much on this guy. In all fairness, 21 years old, Villarreal, 35 million. I've actually seen, not as opposed to 30. So I don't know what the final price is going to be, but yeah, it is a weird one. However, I do hope he succeeds. It's one of those. I can't comment on something I don't know. But if we're showing interest, and then obviously he must have some sort of promise, because it's quite a step up from potentially moving to Bournemouth in January to now set to sign for Chelsea in the summer. So he must have turned some heads, in all fairness to him. And hopefully he is a talented striker. Hopefully he is going to be someone who potentially is going to start scoring lots and lots of goals, because that's the issue that we've had. Like you said, the defense wasn't an issue; it's attack. We need a DM and a striker, and obviously we are going to get onto the other one, but we are sorting our main issues, which is good to see.
Yeah, I look at it and I think we've gone down the route of signing expensive forwards, the big names in football, and most of them over the last 20 odd years, only Drogba and Costa have been a success at Chelsea. We spent 100 million on Lukaku, disaster. Shevchenko wasn't great. Torres, despite winning trophies, wasn't great. Higuain, Morata, like all these players that you've gone through, just to reel off a few there, big names in football, good reputations at the time before coming to Chelsea, and it being a disaster. So maybe actually we do need to change the way that we look at things and actually try the new data-led approach, going for younger, sort of slightly less proven players, and maybe try that, because as I said, we tried going for the expensive guys, the big names, and it absolutely hasn't worked out. So maybe a change in tact could be what we're looking for. And I suppose I look at it and I think, like you, mate, I've not watched a lot of this guy. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have, because I absolutely haven't. But I suppose when you look at it, 21 years of age, there's good potential there. It's the age that, Bowley and co are wanting to buy, are looking to buy in. There's versatility there, can play through the middle and can play down the left if needed. 6'1" in height. So some physicality there in both boxes, could have good link-up play, fairly decent in the air. And I suppose you look at it as well, at I think 35 million euros, £30 million, 21 years of age, even if things didn't work out in, say, 2 to 3 years' time, we'd be 23, 24. You'd imagine that we would at least be able to make our money back on him anyway, if not a profit. So I look at it, when I look at these signings and think, well, it's kind of a low risk, high reward situation. So look, I get it. Like, it annoys me when Chelsea fans like online and stuff are like, oh, this guy's not good enough for Chelsea. You haven't even watched him play. You don't even know he's good enough. You're just saying that because it's not a big name. And it's funny how, like, for example, if a Brighton or a Brentford had signed this guy, everyone would be like, oh, wow, that's a great bit of business. Or why aren't bigger clubs doing a similar thing? And then, fans are wanting us to discover these players before they become those 60, 70, 80 million pound players. And then when we do that, it's like, hang on a second, we should be signing more established names. I mean, mate, do you think that maybe going down the slightly less established route could be more successful for us, particularly given our difficulties in the striking department? Obviously, as long as we don't give him the number 9 shirt, we could be all right.
Or any number that ends in 90 in that case. No, I see the positives, but obviously, realistically, you're looking to build the best team possible. And to build the best team possible, you do have to splash cash on the big names. But maybe, I think there's sort of like 2 projects going on at once at Chelsea. Obviously, the priority needs to be that we do build a monstrous squad that, as Tommy Tuchel once said, no one wants to play against. And, with Poch, we have the potential to do that. But also, I think this is another sort of planned future signing. We've done a lot of those, especially like Carney Chukwuemeka, obviously now Nicholas Jackson, Dacho Fofana, loads of players that we have signed that are quite young, that are not quite first team yet, but they're going to build up and become these monsters that potentially either get sold for lots and lots of money, or they feature in the squad and they have a successful campaign with Chelsea.
I mean, do you think that's something that, because I look at it, and whilst it's exciting to get young talents in from around Europe and whatnot, you're absolutely right. These guys, some of them might come in and hit the ground running straight away, sure, but the likelihood is that we're going to be in a situation where the bulk of the team could be built of players that might be good in 2 to 3 years' time, aren't necessarily ready to be good right now, which is kind of what we need. But I think under Pochettino, a manager that's got a good, reputation of developing youngsters, that could be good for them. But I absolutely get your point that, we could be, I don't say struggling, but there's a worry that we might be going too far in the direction of just getting loads of youngsters rather than getting a few more established, experienced pros around the place. So I suppose if you look at it really right now in terms of real experience, I guess you've got Thiago Silva at the club. Kepa, whether we like him or not, is experienced at sort of 27, 28 years of age. I guess you could lump Reece James into the experience category, even though he's young, he has played a lot of games. Maybe same with Ben Chilwell potentially, and Raheem Sterling as well. But there's not an awful lot of what you describe as like a lot of experience there. I mean, would you like to see us bring in, another guy, Moises Caicedo, 21 years of age, played less than 50 games at Brighton, looks like it could be coming to the club as well. Obviously a top player, but another youngster, not the most experienced. Would you like to see us bringing in some more experienced players to complement these? I haven't really got any suggestions in terms of players, but maybe players that more kind of 25, 26 have won some big trophies, experienced big moments in football to complement what we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. If I had to pick out any centre mid, it would have been Declan Rice.
Yeah,
I would have absolutely gone for broke on Rice in all fairness, but he looks like he's going to Arsenal. This looks almost like he's rejected by Munich pretty much. Yeah. So he's looking set on Arsenal. And yeah, those are the type of players that I like. Promising. I would have gone for a Bellingham as well. Not that I'm complaining. We've got Enzo Fernandez instead. Not complaining. Don't worry. But like those sort of players, as opposed to like the promising youths, like the Maduekis, the Chukwuemekas, obviously now the Jacksons, etc. But yeah, experience goes a long way. Look at Thiago Silva. Before he came in, Rudiger and Christensen were one of the most laughable defenses in Europe. Thiago Silva comes in, they're now one of the most feared. I mean, I'd even take, for experience, I'll even take Hazard back. Not in contrast to Madrid, I would take Hazard back. Think of all the players that could learn off potentially, well, arguably one of, not even one of, definitely not even one of the best winger to ever have played in the Premier League, and I am counting, Cristiano Ronaldo is in that bracket as well, but I mean Hazard was phenomenal. You could argue there's a bit of Chelsea bias in this, but I will die on this hill and say that Hazard is the best winger that's ever played in the Premier League. No one's going to come near him for years. You might get that one player who's like, oh, is he potentially the next Hazard? Or, Salah will do some amazing things and it will say, mate, Salah's so much better than Hazard, mate. No, he's not. Don't even disrespect Hazard like that. This man got dropped from Chelsea because, well, I mean, Hazard came in and Hazard was just doing so much better. So hold that really. But yeah, going back to, sort of the real reason behind, for mentioning this, but experience does go a long way. If there's players that have played, as a youth in the Premier League and, they've seen how physical it is, they can always get the advice. But look, I did this to succeed, and then they train off that. They learn like trademark moves. They learn trademark dribbles and plays from these players. And their footballing IQ goes up. And they start becoming more smart in the games as opposed to just running around like a headless chicken like Conor Gallagher and, just ball chasing.
Yeah, no, mate, I do agree. I think that's experience definitely useful, which is one of the reasons why I'd have been happy to keep Kante, even if he wasn't going to play every week. What those young midfield players can learn from one of the best to ever play in midfield, certainly in the Premier League, certainly in the world, you could potentially argue. Is that experience is kind of invaluable. So yeah, you obviously do want that. I think that's part of the reason why I also wouldn't be that fussed if Aspie stayed at the club, not to play because he won't really play because we've got Gusto and James at right back now. We're well stocked in centre back and we're well stocked at left back as well. But I wouldn't be against Aspie staying around the club for what he could bring to the training pitch and the dressing room and maybe what young players could kind of learn from him. So I'd be happy for Aspie to stay in that respect, not to stay as a player because respectfully, his time is kind of done. But I want to talk about Moises Caicedo. Obviously, we touched on it earlier, mate. We would have preferred Declan Rice. Looks like that's not going to be possible. Caicedo is absolutely the next best alternative. I'll always maintain at the start of the window we had to get Rice or Caicedo. Brighton are going to make it difficult for us with negotiations and whatnot. But I mean, I'm confident that we can get this deal done. Do you think he's what we need?
Yeah. Like I said earlier in the video, the struggle, when we were talking about the defensive ability of Chelsea, and how it actually has been quite all right, even though we lost almost every game every week. The defense, it was just, we lacked attack and we lacked that crucial key midfielder, the Matic type player, effectively. Caicedo is going to do so much for us. It's going to let Enzo go box to box. It's going to let, we've got a competent DM, who can stand in front of the defence and hold the line. And Caicedo has already showed such promise. It's no shock that suddenly, he has one good season and then everyone wants him. Arsenal looked at him. We are looking at him. I mean, I think even United looked at him briefly. It just makes perfect sense. And
I think it does, and I think he ticks a lot of boxes. And actually, talking about Kante, I look at Caicedo. I'm not saying he's like a Kante regen. I don't want to get carried away like that. But when you look at the way that he plays, he's very similar in mold to N'Golo Kante. The fact that he gets all over the pitch, he's prepared to do the hard work off the ball. He's good in the tackle. He's good at breaking up play. He kind of ticks all the boxes, and he's good at progressing the ball forwards as well. And people might say, well, that's kind of basic thing to do, but actually, you don't often get that with a lot of defensive-minded midfielders. And I think whether we play a 4-2-3-1 or we play a 4-3-3, whatever it might be, him and Enzo in a pivot would be fantastic. I think that they complement each other really well there, and that would allow Enzo to play further up the pitch and influence the game better from maybe more of a number 8 position. And ultimately, I think that's what we need to do. We need to find the partner for Enzo to allow him to play further up the pitch. And if we don't do that, then we're doing a massive disservice to Enzo, because we've got to find someone that can play alongside him and unlock him to play further up the pitch. But I do feel we need more than just Caicedo. I do feel we would need another one. And you look at the names being linked. Lavia at Southampton, who is had a decent-ish season. He's quite young. And then you go to the Bundesliga with Kone at Mönchengladbach, and there's been reported rumours maybe of Kefram Turam at Nice as well. But I mean, a name that I've it's been mentioned to me a few times by people in the chat and stuff on various videos and whatnot is Palhinha at Fulham. Are you surprised that no sort of big clubs are looking at him? Because he's had a fantastic season.
Yeah, no. I would have imagined that some clubs would have been on the radar for him. Or he would have been on some clubs' radar. Sorry. Yeah, no, I would have absolutely took Palhinha. He's been class. He showed his worth as a good player, and yeah, no, I personally wouldn't say no to him either. But the Caicedo deal obviously looks like it's progressing more. So, as much as I like to chat crap, as much as I like to be the comedian as such, etc. I've grown up watching football, yeah, but I've not got the footballing brain that these guys are employed to have. So if they see something clearly, 9 times out of 10 with experience, it normally works out.
Yeah, no, I think that ultimately is what we've got to look at, is putting our trust in the people that know better than us. As fans, of course, we're always going to have our own opinions on who we think should and shouldn't come in. But ultimately, people in charge of the football club, the guys that are doing the scouting, the recruitment, the data analysis and all that sort of thing, that know better than us. And ultimately, for me, if Pochettino wants these players and thinks that he can make them work in his Chelsea system, and it's going to be what makes the club successful again, then I guess we have to get on board with it, whether we agree with certain players or not. If the manager wants them and he feels he can make it work, then I guess we just have to believe in that until there's reason and evidence on the pitch to stop believing in it. But I just wanted to quickly move back to centre forwards. Obviously, Jackson's going to come in. We don't think that's going to be the main one. Obviously, he's going to disappear for at least a month in January because it's the AFCON again in Senegal. Probably going to go pretty far in that, you'd imagine. Who would you like to see come in, I suppose, as the marquee signing or the main signing at centre forward? I mean, you look at the market and it's not great. Obviously, Osimhen, big money. Harry Kane, going to be pretty tough to get. And then obviously we've been linked with Martinez at Inter Milan, and we've also been linked with Vlahovic at Juventus. I mean, there's not a lot of decent options out there, really. I mean, Ivan Toney would have been my perfect option. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. But, I mean, who would you like to see come in?
I mean, I'd still take Toney. I would. I mean, all right, fair enough. You can't play till at least, for
January. Yeah.
January. But I would absolutely still take Toney. I mean, realistically, if anything, we can get him cheaper because of the ban. And yeah, all right, he needs to. And to be fair, there's always, he can always appeal the ban as well. So, whether it be, the FA or the CAS or whoever it is that deals with it, that ban's still appealable. And Toney would fit right in at Chelsea. He loves being around the controversy. Just if he does join Chelsea, obviously, just make sure that he doesn't go anywhere near a bookie, and obviously give him a company phone that has all betting apps blocked on it. And obviously, jokes aside, I would take Toney because it's very unique to see a player in a smaller team get the amount of goals in a season that Toney got. So if he can do it for a smaller team, he can definitely do it for a bigger team.
I mean, do you? I said, like yourself, I'm a big fan of Ivan Toney. Do you think now, with the signing of Jackson, that potentially we could get by until January with Jackson and Broja, with Nkunku can also play in a striker role if needed, and then we sign Toney in January as our centre forward signing? That now the Jackson signing, that does seem. I'm not saying it's going to happen by any accounts, but that does seem more likely that we could get by with those three options at striker, and then go and sign Toney in January. I mean, I don't know if we can sign him this time. I don't know what the conditions of the ban are. If you can obviously sign, if he can be signed whilst he's banned, I don't know if we have to wait till January. But Do you think now with the Jackson signing that we could get by with those options? Would you be happy if we went down that route?
Yeah, I wouldn't complain. Just as long as the players are performing. That's all I want. I just want to see the players play for the badge. That's it. That's all I care about. Leave everything on the pitch. Like as long if you can honestly say you played your heart out and it didn't work, then fair play. But it's when you're just making no effort and you're getting barged off the ball, or you're constantly offside, or you're making silly defensive errors, or silly breakdown passes in the midfield, and you're doing it constantly. That's when it gets frustrating. So yeah, good point on Breuer. We saw what could have been this season. When he come on against Wolves, he scored an absolute stunner, and he looks like the Breuer that we didn't loan back out because he was going to be a critical part of Chelsea's front three. So yeah, fair play. Unless he's there is talks that he's going to be used as part of the Caicedo deal though. So it's more of a sit back and wait and see how that one performs.
Yeah, I like Bro. Yeah, and what's kind of mad is that if he hadn't picked up that injury, he actually probably would have played quite a lot this season because we had Havertz playing as centre forward for virtually the whole season. So he absolutely would have featured, I think, quite a lot. So let's kind of wait and see what happens on him. Obviously, he signed a 6-year contract, I think, back in September. So the club clearly still rate him, or maybe they were doing that to protect his value as well. Who knows? In that situation, but just kind of to round out, mate, kind of final sort of topic. What are your expectations for this season coming up? I know obviously it's going to depend on the incomings and the outgoings and whatnot, but kind of where we sit now, sort of last couple of weeks of June. What are your sort of thoughts and feelings for the season ahead? What do you think we need to do?
Obviously, get Caicedo over the line. I would say get a more marquee signing striker. Obviously, look, Jackson, fair play. But it's a 35 mil signing in this modern market. We bought Chukwuemeka for 30 million, either 30 or 20 million. And he doesn't play every week. He's on the bench, so it could just be that's a sign for the future, and there is yet more to come for the transfer window. But definitely get the DM sorted. Caicedo looking most likely. Get a striker sorted, and just get rid of that deadwood. Just get anyone who doesn't deserve, anyone who needs to be off the Chelsea wage bill, get them off. And then realistically, once we've got a good enough squad, we've got a good manager who's got good tactics, good, very, very, very impressive IQ. I don't see why we can't challenge the top four. I do not see any scenario where Chelsea at least make a scare. Like hanging. Being like sixth or fifth. 1-2 points off Champions League football. That sort of challenge. I'm not going to be stupid and say, "Oh, Chelsea going for the title." We're absolutely not. That's a project, a slower project. We need to, build into, and we just got to put all our faith in Poch, because it's doable. This man took Tottenham to a Champions League final, for Christ's sake. That realistically, that's probably better than winning the World Cup, winning the Champions League, winning, going 38 games unbeaten in a season. He got Tottenham to a Champions League final. That realistically, he should be able to apply for any job in the world now. But all that matters is he's with us, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing the progress that he's going to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot to be positive about. Obviously, you'd imagine it's not going to be any worse than this season. You can never say never, but it's highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. But I think, obviously we're disappointed, of course we are, not to be playing in Europe next season, only be playing once a week and the domestic cups. But ultimately, I think that could, as long as it's only one season, that could actually work, and that could be quite favourable for us in a sense that we're going to have a lot more time on the training pitch to work on tactics, form, and identity, get the players, a lot of new players, get to know each other better, get to understand the way that each other plays and whatnot. That's going to be really beneficial to us. We know that Pochettino is, a hard taskmaster in terms of players get fit. There's a lot of running. The preseason is going to be brutal. This team will be fit. And, I think that extra time on the training pitch will do us in good stead. Obviously, extra place going to Champions League football next season, so you can get fifth and finish and get Champions League now from next season. Obviously, with the fact that they're changing the model the following season, so there's going to be more matches, so there's more teams in there with their coefficient ranking business, whatever they do. Means we'll get, because the English clubs have done pretty well in Champions League, means we get an extra space. So yeah, I guess we'll wait and see what happens there. But I mean, yeah, top 5 I think has to be an absolute minimum. I mean, there's no reason either, mate, is there, why we can't make a serious assault on either one of the domestic cups? Because we've had no domestic silverware now, no domestic cups even since the 1-0 win over Man United under Conte with the Hazard penalty at Wembley. So we've had a lot of, we have reached, yeah, there it is. That's the one.
That I was there. We love that.
Mate, can you believe that's the last domestic trophy we won? That's mad.
Well, I mean, had certain referees. Had a certain referee not ruined a certain final that Aubameyang scored 2 in for the wrong team. We could have probably said Lampard won the silverware, but no, obviously, yet again, gender against Chelsea. Refs hate us, especially, that idiot. I mean, I don't even want to say his name. Everyone knows I'm on about. He quite ruined a final already recently, another final recently with poor refereeing. But hey ho, we're not here to moan. We're here to be optimistic. We're here to celebrate, what can potentially be the new season. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Lack of football. Arsenal, Newcastle. They're going to be playing, Champions League for the first time in years. Obviously, yeah, you could argue that Arsenal are used to sort of fixture clogs, being in the Europa League as long as they have, playing on the Thursdays as opposed to the Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So that's not too bad. But when you run deep in these competitions, the fixtures do pile up, and obviously you got to imagine that all these teams aren't gonna, just say, oh, don't worry about the FA Cup, don't worry about the Carabao Cup, because every bit of silverware is important. Obviously, some silverware are better than others. Realistically, you can probably still win the Carabao Cup and still say, oh, it's still Mickey Mouse. I mean, every other team that failed to win it will call it Mickey Mouse. But yeah, it'll be good to actually get some domestic success, because we have missed out on that for quite a while. Obviously, bar the the weird 21-22 campaign where we won the Champions League. Yeah, fair. That's
been tough, isn't it? Like, remember we had the 2 cup final defeats to Liverpool on penalties a couple of seasons ago, which were tough to take. We had that Leicester FA Cup final as well that we lost. So yeah, I mean, look, there's no reason why they shouldn't be taken seriously. You mentioned the Carabao Cup. Obviously it's the least, I don't say respected, but like, I suppose respected in terms of by fans and whatnot. But ultimately, it's the first possibility to win silverware, and we've seen people take it seriously. When Mourinho first came all those years ago, there was full importance on the Carabao Cup, and that was the first trophy we won under him. And I actually think that was really important for the future success of the club, just to get used to winning again. So, I mean, I'd quite happily take a Carabao Cup next season. Like, I think that would be a good building block to go from and to build on. And, ultimately, yes, we've got one extra match this season because we were so shit last season. We've got to do second round, as we touched on earlier. But it's not that many games to win to get to Wembley for a final. So, and there's no reason for us to be making wholesale changes either. We haven't got we've got no European football to concentrate on either. So yeah, we may as well just go for it. So I mean, I don't want to be greedy and say we need to get top 5 and win a cup, but winning a cup should absolutely be an aim for next season, because we haven't got those other distractions going against us. So yeah, look, Pochettino's the pressure's going to be on. But mate, just quickly, last thing. Obviously, fixtures came out. The first 5 don't look too bad. I mean, Liverpool at home opening day this season. I think we've got West Ham away, Luton and Forest at home back to back, and then obviously Bournemouth away as well. First 5 fixtures. All right, Liverpool at home is not easy, but you'd rather, like, first day of the season, there's no form to go off or anything. Anything could really happen. And you have to say the other fixtures, all right, West Ham away could be tougher with no Declan Rice. That might maybe be a little bit easier. But the rest of the fixtures, that's not a bad start. That's a good opportunity to get at least 10 to 12 points out of 15 on the board. Do you reckon?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's actually good that we got such a big game to start with, because you know, it's going to be an atmosphere thing. You know, the fans are going to turn up. You know, there's 2 games that, you know, fans always never fail to turn up for, and it's Liverpool at home and Tottenham at home. And the opening game of the season with Pochettino, you know, it's the second best home game we could have got. But bearing in mind, you know, we had Tottenham as our first home game last season, it weren't going to happen twice in a row. So yeah, mate, it's a huge game and it's a great opportunity, you know, just to tell the world that Chelsea are back. Chelsea are not here to mess around anymore. You know, this is the same Liverpool that, you know, failed to beat a Graham Potter Chelsea twice. Well, I say twice. Obviously, Graham Potter just had been sacked, you know, days before the second one. So still not much time to, you know, change from that. But yeah, literally, it's a great chance to, you know, beat a respectable team and get the ball rolling. And then, you know, West Ham away, like you said, no Declan Rice. You know, they're probably still going to be hungover from the Conference League success. You know, especially if Jared Bowen's partying as hard as he is. And then obviously you got Luton. You know, they're coming to us, which is fortunate. That's the most winnable game there. Easily a winnable game. Obviously Forest at home. I mean, hopefully, you know, we can actually beat them so I don't have another meltdown and trend on Twitter again. You know, that was fun. And then, yeah, you know, these are very respectable, winnable games, and I look forward to potentially what's to come.
No, mate, absolutely, absolutely. I think that seems like a good point to round this one out, mate. Thanks for your time, as always. Massively appreciate it, guys.
I appreciate coming on, man.
Thank you for tuning in, guys. Make sure you smash the likes, as I said. Subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV if you haven't done so below. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments as well. And we'll catch you again in another episode.